Welcome and congratulations. You found the Satori Show with host Amy Satori, your spirit guide to the unseen world. Amy's ability to communicate with and interpret for spirits in that world is simply amazing. Her mission is to use this gift to help people understand what's happening in their life so they can take positive action to move forward. So let's tap into this unseen world together and discover what our friends and loved ones on the other side have to say about our health, love, relationships, our pets, our destiny, and so much more. I hope you'll join me, Kevin McDonald, as we delve into our lives and the world we live in right now on The Satori Show.
And welcome to the show, everybody. This is The Satori Show with Amy Satori, who is your host, and she happens to be with us right now. Good morning, Amy. How are you today?
Good morning. Wonderful. Thank you.
I have a confession to make to start the show.
Okay.
Will you be my confessional?
Sure. I'm kind of used to that.
Yes. Well, as people may or may not know, I've been doing radio and doing this for a long time now. And generally what happens is when I do a show, I don't listen to it again because I did the show. So I feel like I know what I said and I know what was said and so forth. Well, last night I came home, finished editing up and posting the show about you talking to dead people, and I highly recommend it for those that want to go to podbean.com. It's the satorishow.podbean.com, and you can listen to Amy talk to people on the other side and all the other shows that we've done. And also, by the way, there's a little place there for you to friend us. If you friend us, you'll get notification as to when we post another show so that you can go listen to that one.
Follow. I think it's follow on the Podbean.
What did I say?
But yeah. Friend. I think you're thinking Facebook.
Yeah, I think I am.
Same
but
thing.
Yeah,
friend follow.
Yeah. Do follow. But so I put up the show last night, and then I go sit down in my easy, comfy chair, and I turn on YouTube. And normally what I do is I watch, some history stuff or some political stuff and that sort of thing. So what did I do? I went straight to the Amy Satori channel. Yes, she has her own channel on YouTube. And I listened to episode number 17, which is the episode where you channel Celeste, who is your guide from the other side. And I have to, it was awesome. It was really, really good. And I listened to the whole thing rather than be in bed like a good boy like I should. And it was just awesome. So I wanted to tell you that I'm breaking precedent by listening to shows that I wouldn't normally listen to. And a little voice in the back of my head is what drove me to do that. And I would call that, I guess, intuition. Is that what you would call that?
Yes. Listening to your guidance is another way of saying that.
Let's talk about intuition. Now, it's kind of like a muscle, isn't it? I mean, everybody has it, but if you don't use it, you can't develop it. Is that right?
Yeah. I even tell people that it's actually our nature. Right? Intuition is our very nature and birthright. Just like a deer has instinct, wild animals have instinct and they can be alerted to things, just like a deer kind of raises its head and knows when harm is coming or anything like that. That's what our intuition is designed to do, is give us guidance moment to moment. The more quiet your mind, the more amplified the message coming through. So it is important that we, set our egos and our crazy minds aside and stop trying to figure everything out and just kind of listen. And then we are given the guidance that we need. Yes.
How do you do that? How do you quiet your mind?
Oh, there are so many different methods out there. But one way is to just stay really present in the moment. And it's like we all have this crazy relationship with time. We're always wanting something in the future and thinking of how we can get it or manipulate things to get it or control things to get it. Or we're thinking back in the past of things we fear might happen again. And so we're always either in the future or the past. But one way to quiet your mind is to really pay attention to what's happening in this moment and be hyper aware of it. Just be like on alert. Like think of yourself as a deer. What's happening in this moment? What do I hear? What do I see? What do I feel? What is in front of me? What can I touch? Anything like that makes you aware of right now. Also, you're alive, and so many of us take that for granted and don't sense that aliveness in ourselves and in our bodies. But if you take the time to actually tune into or feel that aliveness, feel the tingling, feel the energy in our hands and our legs and throughout our bodies, that also helps to kind of ground us in the moment. And we can also, like instead of looking at form, instead of looking at tables and chairs and everything that you can actually visually see, try to tune into the subtle energies or just tune into the space around you and become one with the space, or just realize the vastness around you that surrounds you and supports you every minute. And so all of these different techniques, and you can do this for periods. Some people like even meditate, but I don't think you have to meditate for more than a half an hour. I mean, some people do, but even 5 minutes. I tell people 5 minutes can do it. Or Bentinho Massaro talks about, taking 2 to 5 seconds 12 times a day, and I think that's a really great way to do it as well. But what happens if you really get into being in the moment, if you can really, and even Byron Katie's work can help you really kind of unravel your subconscious thoughts and give you lots of freedom in there. But what essentially happens is you start to form a different relationship with the now, a different relationship with being really present, and it starts to become your friend. It starts to become, you realize there is really nothing outside of this moment, and you can completely trust life. And it's you almost like step into a threshold or a portal where this incredible life force energy pours through you as you learn to just completely surrender in the moment and no longer even be in the future or the past. And that's when you get this really strong guidance and this current that runs through you. It's like an electrical current almost. And sometimes when you touch things, you can feel like some electricity going between you and the object. But it just brings you in a whole other state and brings you a whole other level. You're very vulnerable in that state because you're not thinking of the future or the past, and we think, our egos make us think that we have to figure stuff out and control stuff in order to be okay. So yes, there's a certain amount of vulnerability there. But I will tell you, I don't know what the exact quote is, but it's like, it might have been Muji or something who said, turn to look at God and keep your eyes on God, which is that stillness within you. And all of a sudden the whole world conspires and makes everything happen for you. And it's so true. It's very vulnerable, but it's the most powerful thing that you can possibly do, is to tap into that source energy. And I talk about that also in my talk about my enlightenment experience. I think it was I'm not sure which episode it was. But if you look at my enlightenment experience, it talks about my whole spiritual path and as well as my enlightenment experiences and how incredible those were. And just you can tell by that talk, that it's a totally different experience than what we're used to and what we talk about and how we relate as people.
Now, when you are trying to develop this, and we all have intuitive hits. I hear all the time people say to me, I knew better than that. I knew I shouldn't do that. A little voice in the back of my head said, don't make this turn because you're going to have troubles or whatever it is. How do you learn to trust that what you're getting is real?
You can do exercises on your own. Or you can involve other people, but basically, when I've been doing readings, I just trust what's coming through and I expressed it, like when I first began, I would just express what I saw and I'm figuring, okay, so there's air and then now I'm seeing colors and shapes and things in the air. So why? So I would just trust it and express it. And then I would keep getting reports back like, oh, you were right. I actually had that happen, or this, I saw this. And you get confirmation. That's one way. Another way is to like begin your day and try to do a little bit of meditating and ask yourself, what's today going to be like? Is there anything that I need to know about for today or this event that's going to happen or whatever? You just ask some questions and you can have kind of a back and forth with your guides. And then you go forth through the day and then you look at your diary like the next morning and see, did those things happen? Did I need those tools? Like, for example, I have a bunch of rocks. I love rocks. And so sometimes I will grab a rock or two. And I remember one morning I was drawn to my red jasper and tourmaline. And those are both protective stones. One protects the body and the other protects, a lot of things. But I was a little, like when I went to grab those, I thought, whoa, I wonder what's going to happen today. This is weird. But I didn't spend time trying to figure it out. I just went to work. When I got to work, there was a sewage flood all over the place. I mean, it was everywhere, and it was deep. And I had to wade through it and help clean that mess up. It was awful. And I remembered I was married to a man who worked with, he was a cross-connection control inspector. And he worked with sewage, and he said that it is like one of the worst things you could ever breathe in. It's like really toxic. So I had that in my head as I'm wading through all this stuff, and I'm just going, oh my gosh, this is awful. And but I felt protected because of those rocks in my pocket. And I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe, because I never used those rocks, never ever. And that morning I was called to use them. So that's just an example, and your guides will train you. They'll start to give you things like that, like, hey, you can trust us. And sometimes you're going to be wrong. I mean, I was probably 50-50 way back when I knew you, and I was learning. Kevin and I met actually through a class learning how to listen to your spirit guides. And back then it was very, very spotty for me. And I think you just develop a relationship with your guides or God or Jesus or whoever you connect with. And through time, they just help you figure it out and you get better. And the more that you practice, the more you tune into it and the more you stay tuned into it and stay in the moment, the more you're going to get.
Well, and I would like to, at this moment, bring on our guest for the hour. Her name is Jenny Silva, and she is going through this period of working on developing her intuition, I believe. And with that, welcome to the show, Jenny. How are you?
Great. I'm happy to be here.
And so tell us about your experience with trying, first of all, what motivated you to try and develop your intuition, and what steps are you taking to do that, and where are you with that?
Well, it kind of chose me a little bit. So in the beginning...
Oh, that's a surprise.
Well, it would happen a little bit, and I would be like, well, that's interesting. Something would come through to me, and I would say, interesting, okay. And then if it came to fruition, I was a little more interested. So then I was probably in my late 20s, early 30s, and thought, well, I'm really more interested in this than I really thought I was. So I got together with a group of ladies, and we had another lady come in, and which is really interesting. Her name was Lisa, and she had taught us how to kind of start to look at energy, and that's what we called it, is energy work. So I didn't really understand a lot of this stuff, but all I knew is that what we were doing was really interesting because I was able to go to a different place. And Amy, when you say be present, I had never really understood that before. And then when I got to that being present moment, and things started to flow through, I thought, well, that's really interesting. And I was a little bit taken aback by it. It was fun, and it was an interesting thing to do with a friend that we could tap into one another and see the same things. And just recently, this woman, Lisa, has reappeared in my life randomly. So that was pretty interesting. But as I did that, there was just sort of this idea of sort of being still was kind of a new concept to me. I'm kind of a type A kind of personality, so that was an interesting idea. And as I moved forward, it would get stronger, and I would get more interested, and then I would back off of it and let myself get carried away in life, raising children and doing all those things. Until probably about 6 years ago, I had been meditating and working toward kind of opening myself up to source energy and playing more with just allowing myself to feel the energy come through me and listen to that. And I was in a really cool bookstore in Ashland, Oregon, and I was walking around in the bookstore, and I had a great drive there from here at the coast, and so I was kind of really open. I'd had a lot of quiet time in the car and felt myself being really open. And I was in this bookstore, and I was being told I needed to go and talk to this woman that was standing at the counter. And I was actually being told to, like, put my hands on her. I'm, like, arguing with myself and with the higher power that's coming through saying you need to go to this woman. I'm like, no, I'm not. She'll think I'm crazy. I'm not doing that. And finally, I had to give in. And I just walked up to this woman and put my hand on her back and said, I'm really sorry. I can't keep myself from doing this. And she turned around and fell into my arms and cried. And she had had some great loss in her life, and she thanked me for listening to the higher powers that sent me to her. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, I don't even know what to do with this. So from there, I sort of started to work on it. And in my true nature, I would work on it as in, like, being quiet and reading everything I could get my hands on, and some things would resonate and some things wouldn't. And then I got myself busy again, finishing my degree and those sorts of things. And I had taken on the biggest, promotion of my career, and life was a little bit out of hand for me. Things were a little overwhelming. And I fell and broke my leg. And during that period of time, I was still so much that I was connected. I was open. And the messages started coming, and I just started to trust them. And so that was about a year and a half ago or 2 years ago. And since then, my goal has been to keep myself open to the messages that come. And so I had an experience where I've just been, writing down those messages, and then the hard part is realizing that it isn't just your mind saying things or your ego saying things. I think the trust factor has been the hardest part for me. And when I feel like I'm not trusting, I just open myself further and say, please send me the messages. Now, I haven't named or really looked into who's sending the messages, but I can feel them, and I can feel really open to them. And it flows really easily when I don't get in my own way. But I had an experience with my sister-in-law where her son had passed away in a tragic freak accident, and I had never met him. And this was the only time that I really felt like someone who had passed had come to me. And he kept pushing me toward her. So after everyone went to bed that night, I sat down with her, and I just let him come through me. And he was letting her know to, try and find ways to feel happy, because that's where he could see her best. And that he loved her, and he was good, and that she was the best mom, and all of these wonderful messages just coming through me, and I'm sobbing, and I can't stop them from coming. And it was a connecting experience for she and I, but one of the biggest experiences to validate what's going on and being able to reach to the higher power and to guide, to help myself feel energy and also the people around me. So
that's an awesome story. So let me ask you, you've been on this path to study your own intuition and to move forward with it, and I'm sure that Amy enters this picture somewhere. How do you know Amy?
It was incredible. So I live in Coos Bay, Oregon, and she lived here at the time. And we went to this business connection meeting. And it was like lightning when we met each other. We both kind of felt this thing and knew that we had the same sort of energy or connection. And so we talked some about that, right, Amy? I mean, we talked a little about things, you know, kind of on the lighter level of like law of attraction and those things that are definitely a part of some of this. But the connection. I
think it was more when we went to lunch.
It was, but we just knew kind of that meeting that we needed to spend more time together. And our lunch was kind of mind-blowing, just in our connection.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Yeah.
And
yeah,
so
well,
we
do
knew
tell.
each other for a long time.
Well, I just remember. Go ahead, Amy.
No, you go ahead. I mean, it was just kindred spirit, you know.
Absolutely,
really
it's one of the
connection.
It's like a palpable thing. Like you can feel, and it's something that I'm actually learning within doing the energy work, is that sometimes you can walk into a space of people and feel what's happened before you walked in the room, or the energy that's moving throughout the room. And with Amy and I, it was like we sort of connected on a level that it wasn't like cognizant. It was just this higher level. And we talked about things that I hadn't talked to many people about. It just sort of felt right to share with her about energy work and my understanding of reaching to the higher power and things that are kind of unseen. And so having that experience was really probably one of the first times that I kind of experienced it out of the blue, right? Like being able to just sit down with someone and find that kindred spirit.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's really funny, Kevin, because she's had a couple of readings from me since I left Coos Bay. And this last one, I was doing a reading for her, and right in the middle, she goes, oh, I have a message for you. And I was like, okay. I said, if you want to, I'm open to hearing it. That's awesome. You know, that doesn't happen very often. And so I told her, I said, whatever time you take to tell me what you got to tell me, I'll give you that extra time, you know. And she's just like, hey, no problem. Let me just tell you. So it was like really incredible information about what's going to be happening up ahead for me. And it was just so cool, and I was so impressed. And I thought, wow, look at you! You've just like totally blossomed in these last couple of years, and it was just really neat. And then we talked about how every intuitive they pick up on things. Sometimes you go to someone else who's intuitive because they have another detail of it. It's like five people standing in a room. One's going to be looking at the door, the other's going to be looking at the window, someone's going to be looking at a painting, and another's going to be looking and noticing the bed. So it's like each person's going to pick up on different things. So it is nice to bounce things off of other people as well. And it's really nice when you have people who can tap in like you and can be there for you like she was for me that day. It was really, really neat. And obviously I needed to hear what she had to say. Yeah.
Well,
and that's something she and I discussed as well, is needing each other. You know, needing and using each other. It's about working together.
Right.
Well, don't leave us in suspense, ladies. Jenny, what message did you have for Amy about her future?
She's got some major, wonderful things headed her way, and she is definitely on the right track in doing what she's doing. This podcast is going to be a really big thing for her, and I see some other great things on her horizon as well. So when those messages come through like that, one of the things that I think is really brilliant is that when you're opening for your own message, it's like that idea of having your hand out to receive, you can also give. And you're that open to those messages, then something comes through for someone else. I've learned not to fight that. I've learned to let that come through And even if I have to write it down because it came through for someone else while I was asking for guidance for myself, that to me is like one of the greatest side effects. You know, it's wonderful to have that happen, and you find that once you start opening yourself, the synchronicities in your life are just mind blowing. So,
oh my gosh, I know. It really is mind blowing.
Literally, after you and I spoke last time, Amy, Lisa, who was the first energy worker I met, contacted me and has moved to Coos Bay.
Oh my gosh.
Random. I was like, well, I'm listening.
So all right, so I have a little story to share. Do you know that this podcast was actually created by Kevin listening to his intuition? What happened, and I'll say my version first, Kevin. You can, add to whatever you want.
Okay.
So around, I think it was like late January, I had posted something on Facebook about that I was going to head to an event, and it was already like all my slots were sold out. And something rang a bell for him, and he was like, I knew it. Like this is her time. I knew it. Like something went off like that in him. And we've known each other for like 20 years. We have talked like off and on all that time and stayed friends all this time. So we've known different things that each other have gone through and everything, but he's always believed in me and always thought that, I'd be really successful in this, and was always like urging me on and spurring me on. But here it is, 20 years later from the moment we met and we took that spirit guide class, and I had lived through a haunted house and all this stuff, and then moved from, Coos Bay to Texas to here. He's like, where is she? What is she doing? And so here it was January of this year, and he gives me a call, and he said, Amy, I mean, it was like one of those moments where, like, are you sitting down? He said, he's like, I really am being urged very strongly to do something for you. And I was like, what? And he said, I want to put together a podcast, because he was a talk show host for years before this. He's not doing that now, but he's got a lot of experience, and he has a studio in his house all set up. And he said, I want to help you get your name out there. I feel like, you're going to do good, wonderful things for this planet, and I want to be a part of helping you make that happen. And I think you just need exposure. And so he said, let's get you on a podcast and get your voice out there and have people listen to you. And I was like, oh, Kevin, I don't have the money to pay you that. Like, what he does is extremely valuable, and I would not be able to afford that. And he said, I'm going to do it for free for you because I believe in you. And he said, I'm going to spend every spare minute I have, every time that I have off, I'm going to help you to develop what you've got and help you make a name for yourself. And I was so blown away and shocked. I didn't, and a part of me was scared. I was like, well, I'm not ready to go out on stage. I don't know, it's like I'm comfortable with these one-on-one sessions. I'm comfortable with, but another part of me was like, Amy, it's time. You know this, you got to get your butt out there. And ever since this has been happening, he has poured his heart and soul into this. We've been working together like the most incredible team. I've never worked, yes, I have worked incredibly well with somebody before, Gretchen. But she's another miracle in my life. But there's like, since we've been working together, it's like so obvious the universe wanted us to come together because it's so easy. And almost every conversation we have, it's like, dude, we should record this. This is amazing. So we just naturally have this podcast pouring out of us. And so, Kevin, go ahead and expand on that, if you will. Because, this is the most incredible thing to ever happen to me, honestly.
I'll never forget when you walked into that meeting room 20 years ago when we were going to learn about our spirit guides. And I was real new in the New Age movement, or whatever you want to call it, and getting in touch with myself and getting in touch with my higher self. And so we were sitting there, and you walked in the room. You were very quiet, very reserved, and we struck up a conversation and talked a little bit, and that's how our friendship began. Then, over the course of years, I knew, ever since you talked to my dog Crockett, I knew that you had a special gift. I just knew it. I don't know why I knew it, but I just knew it. But I was waiting for you to exercise your gift and to believe that you had this gift and could actually impact the planet. And so I followed you when you went to Montana. I followed you when you went to Coos Bay. I followed you when you were in Texas. And then when you sent that message that you were going to a fair and your times and your day had basically sold out, I heard a voice in the back of my head that said, she's ready.
She's
and
right.
That's when she's right for the picking. And that's why when I called you and said, Amy, we need to do this. And this isn't about, you see, interesting side story. Yesterday I went to a metaphysical bookstore and health place. Was talking to the owner, and I said, I have a podcast, and immediately walls went up because she was saying to herself, okay, this is where the salesman is. This is what he's giving me a sales pitch, and now he's going to ask for money someplace in here. And that wasn't my intention at all, and we didn't even get to that part, but that's kind of how Amy looked at that. It was like, okay, this is my friend, but he's also a salesman, which I did for a lot of my adult life, and so I'm sure you were thinking, well, this is part of the sales job that that you're ready, you need to do this, and it wasn't that at all. It was like, no, I will figure out how to do this. Oh, good,
no, I never
good.
felt that, never. But I was blown away. I've never been so supported in my life like that.
And I said, I will. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, and I've even had people who are like, well, I want to have a podcast. Maybe I can hire him. And he's dug his heels in, and he's saying, no, I'm just completely devoted to you. This is about me and you. So I'm going, whoa.
Well, I got to tell you,
wanting to take money from other people to help, to help them with their podcast. He's like, no, this is us. This is us, baby.
Let me tell you a little story about that, and just real quickly. And I hate to dominate this because this is not about me, but when I was doing the radio show and I wanted to make it a career and I wanted it to be highly successful, the show was very good and people listened to it, but I couldn't sell advertising to save my soul. And if you can't sell advertising, they don't let you do it for free. So it failed. And that cost me my house, my marriage, a whole bunch of different stuff that happened in the intervening time. Well, 10 years ago, I went to work for a company which allows me the financial freedom to be able to do things without concern about the energy of money, because without that worry, things can work out. So when I came to Amy, money was the farthest thing from my mind. I wanted to figure out how to make this work. And I thought I had the technology kinda, sorta, but I didn't know how to do it. So how to make it sound as good as it does now. So, and this is a really interesting story because I was on I work for King County Metro. I'm a bus driver. Get paid pretty well for doing what I do. Even though I have to talk to, well, never mind, we won't go there. So I was sitting on a break a month ago, and I was saying, how do I incorporate this so that I can talk to Amy? Because, see, most podcasts are just about the host and maybe one other person, and they're in the same room, and they're bantering back and forth. That's what most podcasts are. It's important for Amy to be able to reach out to people and people to reach her. So I needed a platform by which people can call in. But I had no idea. So I started looking on the internet, and there are, for upwards of $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000, there are phone systems that you can use to do that. And so I started looking at that and figuring out, okay, I was willing to spend $4,000 to put a phone system in place so that Amy could get callers. And I don't know where it came from, but I was looking through stuff, and apparently I put in the right, and you both will agree with it, I put in the right phrase on the phone or whatever, and this place called Call-In Studio popped up. It is an online program that you can accept callers. You can it records it. It can make radio quality broadcasts, and it's dirt cheap. And I don't know where it came from, but all of a sudden I had everything I needed to put this together for Amy so that we can go. To finish the story, week one, this is our 4th week of doing this podcast. Week one, I put up a pre-podcast notice that this is what we're about. Had 20 downloads. A download is when somebody clicks on the site and then listens to the podcast. Week 2, we put up 3 shows, and we had 90 downloads. Week 3, we put up an additional, because she doesn't let me sleep. I can't even, that's another story. But we're so excited about this. So week 3, we had like 6 or 7 podcasts up. We had 100 downloads that week. And so last week, coming into this Sunday, today, we had 190 total downloads in 3 weeks. Wow. As of this morning, we have 372 downloads, and Boom. Amy's put some shows on YouTube, and there's 150 downloads of those, or views of those. So this thing is doubling every week, and it has nothing to do with me. It has to do with Amy and Celeste and you, Jenny, and people that are putting this out there in a way that are it's going to become extraordinary. And it's all because the work that needs to happen is because Amy needs to be supported, and she's being supported by the universe. Okay, I'm done.
For sure. I just want to say one thing that I think is really important, not only for Amy to hear, but anybody who's listening to hear, is that if it scares you to death and you're excited at the same time, leap. Mm-hmm. That is one of those things, like getting out of your comfort zone. That comfort zone keeps you where you're at, and the growth is not within that. So
well, and I'll tell you, like, and Celeste, like what she said about the divine feminines and masculines being supported right now, like those who've been working on their spiritual development are being majorly supported at this time. Anything that they take on, especially as twin flames come together, it's even more powerful. But the divine feminines are especially and I know quite a few of them who are being supported in this way. Like one of my roommates, she just started dating this guy, and this guy, he sounded just like Kevin. So this guy comes into her life, and she's got these incredible dinners she's going to with him, going horseback riding, having these romantic, dinners, and it just sounds incredible. And then she says, and then he's got, plenty of resources, and he says to me, I believe in you, and I think you could really be something. Let's develop something for you. And she's like, what? And so he's helping her come up with her own thing that she can stand strong in and kind of be powerful in. But that's happening to all the feminines, especially if they have a really great message to share. They're all being given these incredible opportunities at this time and being supported in this way. The masculines too, if they can, if we can all just get out of our own way and quit being scared and just do what we're being called to in a heartfelt way, we will be supported in a huge, huge way.
Absolutely.
Jenny,
I think that.
Oh, go ahead, Jenny.
I think that the understanding that there's enough for all of us, and that all of these journeys happening at the same time just make each other's journey bigger and better. And that support comes from that collective, right?
Yeah, and you know what, too? I I have been single a long time, and when she starts talking about all these dates that she's going on, I am excited for her. There is not a part of me that's like, oh, I wish I had that, because I know I'm going to have that again. And I've had it in the past. Believe you me, I've had the limos and everything. So I've had a lot of really wonderful things, but there were times in the past, like you said, Jen, where I'd be like, well, she's getting it all. Like, and then I'd feel lack within myself, like I don't have that, and I'd feel bad. But man, this is the first time in my life when somebody's been telling me incredible things that are happening to them that I've been excited for them. And to me, that's a really good sign that I'm ready for those things as well. If you can be excited and not jealous, that's huge. That means you're ready, baby. You're ready to take off. So do it.
Gathering momentum from the evidence that it's possible. It's that momentum that just gets behind you and you're like, this is possible. And I see that in this wonderful thing that's happening to my friend or this person that I know. Just finding out about someone else's like amazing journey and the growth that they're experiencing, it totally enlivens what you're doing and helps you to just keep growing when you get excited for them, when you feel their energy get to increase. So
yeah, because everybody is an extension of us. And when you see other people going through amazing things more and more, then you're hearing the stories about the icky stuff. When you're hearing more and more about these inspirational stories, it's like that just means there's more and more of that type of energy coming into your life.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Jenny, it's interesting. You said if something scares you and you're excited at the same time. Amy had that experience just a couple of episodes ago because I blindsided her because she does one-on-one readings a lot, and I can access one of her guides. Name is Celeste, and she can access this guide, and she does this one-on-one. Well, I put it out there on the podcast that she was going to do that, and she said afterwards, she said, I was mad. I didn't want to get outed in that way.
It's true. I was so mad at him. But, it's like there's a part of you also when these things happen that you kind of have to get past yourself and realize you're being used by the universe in a powerful way. It's like, just get over yourself and just do it,
You're not
letting your ego hold you back.
Coming through. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Like, just don't be stupid. Just, get over the insecurity and do it. You're just being called to do it, so do it.
And that turned out to be...
If you don't let yourself be used, somebody else will be used. So you may as well participate and grow,
Right.
And that turned out to be a enormously impactful podcast. And I encourage everybody to go listen to all of them, but certainly episode 17 where Amy actually channels Celeste, and you could tell. I mean, I could tell instantly that wasn't Amy talking. That was somebody else talking through her. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
And Jenny, aren't you putting together a psychic fair? I mean, you get to see these people, lots of really talented people that are blossoming before your eyes.
And it's such a great thing because it's just it's taken on a life of its own, and it's super exciting. And we're going to do a little metaphysical fair here in Coos Bay, and we got a little bigger place than we thought we were going to, and we're getting some support from areas that I was not expecting. So, I mean, it's not until April, but we're moving quickly on getting the planning done, and I'm just loving it. I mean, we've got a little newspaper in an adjoining town that wants to support us in making posters and put an ad in for us, and then she wants us to hold one in her area as well. So one little idea. One little idea.
Isn't that just amazing? That's all it takes is for us to act on our intuition. I mean,
absolutely.
Look at what's happened from Kevin's idea. Look what's happened from your idea. Like just a little tiny paying attention of a little subtle thing. If Kevin wouldn't have called me, I'd be sitting home watching videos right now, which is fine too, But
you'd be sitting home watching someone else's video, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I just feel like hanging out, doing whatever, find something to do.
No, you're not allowed to do that anymore. You, by the way, have made me so darn busy. I can't. I used to love to sleep in because I work nights, so I get home at about 11:30, and I used to love to sleep in till noon. Yesterday, or on Friday, I told Amy, tomorrow I'm tired. I'm going to sleep in. She gets a text from me at 10:30 in the morning that says, "Hey, let's do something."
I've got this great idea. Yeah. Are you available in a half hour? I was like, I thought you were sleeping in. He's like, I just got excited.
And what we produced out of that was her talking to dead people, and she talked to my son who's lost his both grandpas, his grandma, his uncle, his great uncle, a bunch of folks, and it was a very good episode. So I encourage everybody to do that because Amy can do that as well. So it's just remarkable the growth that we are all going to be experiencing through this medium, as also as other things. As a matter of fact, I think that you need to talk to Gretchen about having a psychic fair in Boulder, because that would be exciting. Or do you already do that? I don't know.
Oh, there's all kinds of fairs out here in Denver and Boulder and in the area. Yeah, there's a lot of activity out here for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I'm just.
But I also like what this has done for Travis. I mean, Kevin's son, Travis, he didn't even get involved in any of this stuff. He thought his dad was crazy to have made that call to me and devote himself to me. He's like, who is this girl and what in the world? Like some psychic? He was like, what are you doing? What did you get yourself into, Dad? And so now, go ahead.
Well, no, Travis has been through the journey of the radio show. It was called Positive Talk Radio, and I had a lot of psychics and a lot of forward thinkers and a lot of inspirational people on, including people like
Neil Donald Walsh.
Neil Donald Walsh, for one, and I just lost his name. Martha Norwalk, the gentleman who wrote Seed of the Soul.
Gary Zukav?
Yeah, Gary Zukav had him on a couple of. So I've met some really interesting people. He always thought I was nuts. He was like, Dad, I love you, but I think you're crazy. And then he called in to a podcast with Amy, who did a reading for him that changed his life.
Wow.
Literally changed his life, because he has been going through a lot of crap in the last year or two with relationships and with his health, and Amy called it perfectly and said it in a way. It's one of those things, Jenny, that when she was talking to him, I was going, oh, that's not right. Oh, I thought I knew him. And I said, that's kind of not really. Oh, well, okay, I guess maybe I can see. So he walks into the room after the call ends. He walks into the room and he opens the door and he said, "Dad, what have you done to me?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And he said, "That was the most right-on, inspirational, incredible reading I've ever had. How does she know this stuff? Who is this person?"
Wow.
And he's had several subsequent episodes, and it has literally changed his life. He's walking differently. His energy is different. He's got a much better mental attitude. It's amazing. And that is what Amy does for a living. She does this stuff for people all the time. It's truly amazing.
Well, and that's anybody that's what can happen when you just listen to that voice inside of you, like, oh, what can happen if I actually start to listen to myself? What can happen if I, develop this or start to rely on it or start to help people with it? Follow those little gut instincts, and that's the hardest part, is listening to that voice and not letting the fear. I mean, the ego will always try to sabotage you. So just be aware of that. It's just the ego. Move past it and develop whatever you want, whatever you feel passionate about, whatever you feel excited about. Do it. and do it with all your might, all your being.
Oh, that's awesome. Jenny, we need to wrap up this podcast. You've been wonderful today. Will you come back?
Absolutely. I've enjoyed this immensely.
Awesome. So do you have any last thoughts that you would like to leave with our audience today?
I would. I'd like to say that fear is always going to be present because the ego brings it to you. But if you just trust and allow it to come through you and trust a little at a time, you'll see that it's worth the trust and it's worth moving forward and feeling that growth and that expansion.
Yes.
Amy?
I second that notion. Yeah, no, very true. The only thing we ever have to fear is fear itself. It's so true. It's so true. Whatever you want to do, go do it. Don't let anything hold you back. Don't let anybody guilt you or make you feel bad about it or make you feel like you couldn't do it, or don't listen to any of that crap. And don't listen to any of that crap that you try to feed yourself either. Mm-hmm. Don't listen to any of that. It's just ego. Just forget about it. Put your blinders on and just go after it. And don't look at your competition. Do not look at other people who are already doing it. Don't compare yourself, because
there's enough for all of us.
Yeah, and be your own flavor. Be your own unique flavor. People who like you gravitate toward you. People who like them gravitate toward them. No big deal. There's just a lot of love to go around. And I encourage anyone also, you can call it. Yes, you can call into the show with questions every Sunday between 12 and 1. But you can also call in and share your cool story about how you feel supported by the universe and how you broke through fear. I'd love to hear you share a story as well. So feel free to do that anytime.
Awesome. And ladies, you've been incredible. We're creeping up on the noon hour Mountain Time, so we're going to go live with the show in just a couple of moments. So with that, Jenny, thank you very much for being on the show. We've been talking with Jenny Silva. It's awesome. And Amy and I will be back with another podcast in just a little bit, so I hope you'll stay tuned. Go to the satorishow.podbean.com and download and listen to all the shows. I think that you will really enjoy it. So, given that, do something nice for yourself today. Do something nice for somebody else. Thank you, Amy, for being you. My name is Kevin McDonald, and we'll be back soon with another podcast.